Al, so much of this finals for so long has been about will these teams draw? Ratings, 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 ratings. It's Jokic a sell. Boom, boom, boom. So the numbers are in so far for game one and game two, and it's pretty good. With 2 games in the books, this is according to SB Nation, with 2 games in the books, this year's NBA Finals are pulling a mammoth numbers. Game 1 averaged 11.5 million viewers, which grew in Game 2, 11.9. Game 2, a great game. Obviously, people really care about the series. And these numbers, this was the author's words about people caring. But they said the audience numbers peaked to 15 million on Sunday. And a lot of these numbers are rivaling the last year's finals between the Warriors and Celtics, which a lot of people figured a lot of people would tap into. But the whole debate was that because these aren't 2 big market teams, you don't have the mega stars, you don't have Bron, you don't have Steph Curry in this thing, that it was going to be a flop. So far, so good, man. What's your take on it?
I think people just love basketball, man. I think we need to move away from, because some part of the NBA media coverage is just a lot about drama. And I think while that does placate into how this product is promoted, right, how it's sold, people just love the sport in general. And I think when you have 2 teams like this, like there's still good storylines for these teams. Both underrated teams, both coming from different paths. Look, Miami, as we talked about earlier, was a team that wasn't giving its all and then somehow has this magical run, A-seed run, right? The last time we saw an A-seed team was our beloved New York Knicks in the NBA Finals. Now we get it again with the Miami Heat.
Yeah.
And now you also have the Denver Nuggets, Nikola Jokic. You know, you had a lot. Was he going to be a 3-time MVP this year, right? Between him and Embiid, the conversation. So people want to see, all right, you hear about Embiid, Jokic, Embiid. What's the difference? Who is this guy? Why is everyone talking about him? Because, you know, I talk to friends who don't really watch the NBA like you or I do, and they're like, yo, Jokic is crazy. Like, I'm like, yo, if you tune into the NBA, like if you watch, this is what he does, man. If you have League Pass, you tune into a random Nuggets game.
Yeah,
this is what he does. This is what Murray does. So I think if you just love basketball, people are seeing like, yo, these are really good players that we're watching right now, really good teams. And I think it's easy to just have a lot of attention towards it. And let's not forget 2020, the year that it was at its lowest, right, for ratings and viewerships.
Yeah.
These 2 teams, Miami was in the finals that year, so they want to see, can they actually get the job done, right? And Denver was in the Western Conference Finals facing the Lakers, right? And we go back to thinking, could the series have been different if Mason Plumlee guards Anthony Davis for that game-winning shot, right?
Yeah.
That series was highly competitive. So these teams already have some history being this close and being in this dance. And yet here we are, man. So I think there's a lot going on with this, but when you just look at the viewerships, like it's climbing back. And I think when we start thinking about where the league was 2 seasons ago in 2020, like there was a lot going on. You obviously had the murder of George Floyd, civil and social rights just at its all-time high. COVID was at its all-time peak, where people were, you know, the economy was out of whack. People didn't have jobs. So why would people want to tune in when you're worried about survival and what's going on in your country first? So I think it's starting to, you know, watching sports, not saying the world, just watching sports is just starting to get back into like some sort of normality where there's people getting jobs, so forth. Not saying everything's right, but getting back into some sort of rhythm.
Yeah, true indeed, man. I think it's interesting, you know, just not being the 2 big market teams that, you know, it's drawing interest. I think if you like the game, if you're interested in the game, watching these Nuggets play, I think they are an interesting team. Some people might find them a little dull. You know, a lot of the talking heads out there are saying, well, Jokic and them can't draw. They're a boring team. They're like the Spurs. They are. I think they are. I think there are a lot of similarities in their style of play and their 2 stars not really being these, you know, rah-rah personalities, but more mild-mannered to themselves, very reserved. They're not trying to be in the spotlight, but they dominate the sport. So it's just very interesting there. But obviously the interest is there from the Denver side. And then from the Miami side, I think looking at their run, speaking from myself personally, I like to see, and I hate giving the Heat credit, but I like to see those in sports, when my teams aren't in it, I like to see the underdogs win. I like to see the
It's always a
underdog
great
story.
story.
Underdog story, right? I'm a Giants fan. Giants winning the Super Bowl in '07, the biggest David versus Goliath underdog story in sports. Sorry, I just had to put that Giants thing in there. You know, so I like that. And with the Heat, their run being the AC to knock off a 1 seed like the Knicks, being the AC to win the most playoff games since the '99 Knicks, coming up 3-0 against the Celtics and then losing 3 straight. You had the Derek White heroics in Game 6, and then the Heat blowing the doors off them in Game 7. I thought that really piqued the interest in this Heat team to say, okay, they managed, they one had a good team on the ropes, then managed to come back and beat them handily. Let's see how they do against the Denver Nuggets, against this high-octane offense against Jokic. And so I think those were some of the combinations there that has piqued the interest. And overall, the NBA just doing a great job from a social media marketing aspect. You know, whether it's the team accounts, whether it's the NBA account, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, everything, then higher or greater
For sure.
in terms of the exposure.
Absolutely. And I think you got to account for that too, and how people are consuming the NBA as well. So when you look at viewerships, right, and ratings, we have to consider that. Let's go back to like the highest highest rated game, highest viewed game in NBA history was 1998 Bulls versus Utah Jazz. Obviously, we know the storylines that ran with that. The Last Dance documentary came out. We know it's Michael Jordan. You got Stockton and Malone, right? Scottie Pippen. Everybody. We know those two teams were at the peak of their powers, and it drew in close to 30 million. But around that time, with those storylines, there was no social media that we have today. There's no YouTube to watch highlights. There's no Twitter accounts. There's no Facebook accounts where you could be like, oh, let me just go on, this platform and go see what's trending and just go be part of the moment without having to be part of the moment. During those times, to be part of the moment, you had to go watch it because tape delay wasn't going to do it. People were already going to be talking about it. So if you wanted to know what was going to happen and to be up to date in the sports world, you had to watch it. Today, CP, I know people who just don't even watch the game. They throw on YouTube.
Yeah.
They watch the 9-minute highlights. That's it. If you have YouTube TV, you don't even have to watch all the game. You could be in the fourth quarter and you could say, catch me up with the highest moments of the game, and it'll do that for you. So the game is just, it can be digested in such a different way than it was years ago. So when I look at viewerships, it's hard to actually get a rating to seeing how many eyes you have on the whole thing, because you can watch it in so many different ways.
Yeah.
If you're traveling and you couldn't catch a game, you can either DVR it, watch it later,
ESPN
or if
app.
you just don't feel like going through all of it, literally hop on YouTube. Just
Yeah.
go on Twitter. You just type in all the hashtags and you go find this stuff and see what were the moments of the game. And it's like you can see someone talk about, oh, this Jokic 3-point shot, this was crazy. You go back, you go find it, and like, oh, that's the shot. And that's how you can still see the moments, right?
Yeah.
It's not like where you watch Jordan the last seconds of the game, like pull the crossover and knock down the last shot to win the finals. You didn't have to watch. You don't have to do that anymore.
True.
Where you just have to tune in watching it live. So the game is just digested differently. I think we have to take that into consideration when we see, 11. That's not as much as it was years ago, but I think we have to take that into consideration when looking at all these numbers when it comes to viewerships and ratings.